And that's what we need to ask ourselves is if trouble comes our way and Satan attacks us, can God trust us with that? Hey everybody, welcome back to Faithful Impact. I'm Jay, and today we're answering the question, can Satan read your mind? This is a question that's extremely interesting, and it can leave many of us feeling a little bit uneasy, to be honest with you. But today we're going to dive into the Bible and find the truth about Satan's powers and, more importantly, his limitations. First, let's establish a foundational truth. Satan is powerful, yes, but his power is limited. He's not God's equal. He's a created being who rebelled against his creator. Colossians 1:16 tells us all things were created by God and for God, including Satan. This means Satan's power and authority are not inherent, but permitted by God, and always under God's control. Satan is not omnipotent, he's not omniscient, and he's not omnipresent. Unlike God, he doesn't possess all power. He doesn't know all things, and he's not present everywhere. These attributes belong to God alone. So, can Satan read your mind? Can he read your mind and know your thoughts? The simple answer is no. Now, you do me a favor. I want to hear from you on this. Go down in the comments below and you tell me if you feel like at times Satan is reading your mail or reading your mind. I want to hear your thoughts on that. The Bible makes it clear that only God has the ability to know our innermost thoughts. Psalm 139:2 tells us, "You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar." This verse, ladies and gentlemen, is referring to God, not Satan. Nowhere in Scripture are we told that Satan has access to our minds or to our thoughts. He can observe our actions, he can hear our words, and he can see our reactions, but he cannot penetrate the thoughts or intents of our hearts. This is reserved for God alone. Another crucial point that I want to make about this is that Satan can only operate within the boundaries that God has set. A perfect example of this is found in the book of Job. In Job chapter 1, verse 12, God allowed Satan to test Job, but with strict limitations. The Bible tells us this in that verse, "Behold, all that he has is in your hand, but God told Satan, only against him do not stretch out your hand." Satan's actions are most definitely restricted by God's will. And Satan was told by God, you can attack Job, but you're limited. There are certain things I will not allow you to do. Well, then you may ask the very good question, why would God allow Satan to attack one of his greatest servants? Well, I believe God knew he could trust Job with the trouble. And that's what we need to ask ourselves is if trouble comes our way and Satan attacks us, can God trust us with that? Does God know how we're going to respond when we're attacked by Satan? Think about that. And maybe we could do a better job of serving God in such a way that we give him all the glory and credit and not give so much over to Satan, who has no power. God is sovereign, and Satan can only go as far as God allows. This reinforces the fact that Satan is not an all-powerful, free-roaming force. He's on a leash, and God holds the reins to that leash. I'll tell you what Satan can do, and this is why we're reminded in Scripture to always be vigilant and to be aware of his tactics. While Satan cannot read your mind, he is an expert observer. He studies your behaviors, he listens to what we say, and he uses the information that he gathers from us to tempt us, to deceive us, and to accuse us. 1 Peter 5:8 warns us, be sober-minded, be watchful, because your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. But I want you to remember, even in his craftiness, he cannot breach the barriers of your heart. Satan's tactics are based on what he sees and what he hears, not on mind reading abilities. He doesn't have the ability to do that. We must remain vigilant but not fearful, knowing that our deepest thoughts are off limits to Satan. So if you're worried that Satan might have access to your thoughts, let this be an encouragement. He does not have access to your thoughts. Only God knows the depths of our hearts, and he alone has the authority over our souls. Proverbs 21:1 reminds us the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. Like the rivers of water, he turns it wherever he wishes. Do you know what that verse tells me? It tells me that God is in control of all things, including Satan. And if God controls the heart of a king, how much more does he protect his children from Satan's schemes? Satan is limited. He's not God's equal, and he certainly cannot read your mind. Let's trust in God's sovereignty, rest in God's protection, and be mindful of the enemy's strategies without giving him more credit than he deserves, because way too often we give Satan all the credit. I have heard testimony after testimony, and people will stand to testify, and when they're done, they've given all the credit to Satan because they're speaking of the sickness, and they're speaking of the poverty, or they're speaking of the difficulties, or they're speaking of the hardships. And these things are real, and we all go through them. But we should speak of God's power and God's grace and God's ability to bring us out of those situations. Because when we only speak the negatives, we're giving Satan more credit than he really deserves. I want you to remember something. Greater is he that is in you and me than he that is in the world. Thanks for watching, and if you found this video helpful, do me a favor. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And I'm going to see you on this video, and until I see you there, may the Lord bless you.